Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome into today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing. Pause this video. Go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get in today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today.
Guys, welcome to an exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. My guest today is the co-host of the award-winning Shit That Goes On in My Head podcast. Mental health podcast is a dedicated advocate for the 988 Suicide Crisis, Suicide and Crisis Hotline, a suicide attempt or survivor. Please welcome the one, the only Gretchen. Is it Schoser? Is that how you say it?
Close enough. Schoser. It's got a hard O on it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here, guys. Sorry we're so late getting live here, guys. We are having a little tech issues, but she's here. Anyways, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Pete. I am so honored to be here on your show, and this is such a great avenue for us to help destigmatize mental health. So, our podcast came about because my own mental health struggles. So, on Christmas Day, 2022, I attempted suicide. Thank God for that little glimmer of hope that things were going to get better. I ended up calling 988. I'm alive today because of 988. And I took all my pain and hurt and turned it into purpose. We created a podcast that's called Shit That Goes On in Our Heads.
I love the name, by the way.
And we didn't think anybody would listen to us, right? We were like, yeah, we're going to get 3 episodes in. Nobody's going to listen to us. We're fools. Then come September of 2024, and we won 2 awards for the podcast. And we've hit just a little bit over 1 million downloads. And, part of my healing journey was sharing about my own journey. The day after Christmas, I went out on social media and I let people know what was going on. I'm an extrovert, also an empath, and I hid my depression really well. Not a badge of honor. So, if you're an extrovert and you're hiding your pain because of shame or because you can't find your voice, don't do it, because all it does is ends up hurting you in the end. And it doesn't give people the chance to help you out. One conversation could probably change your life.
Yeah, that's great you say that, though, too, because I was talking to somebody about that last night. Actually, or this morning, I was on TikTok, and there's a guy named Daddy Clint who runs these lives where he tells it to No Sleep Zone. And he was talking about that, and I was telling him, I was like, listen, man, you just having people come here sharing their stories or sharing anything with you, and they're talking to you about it, is the best thing you could ever get them to do. Because if they're talking to you, it means a lot, though, and it makes a major difference. So when it comes to people's state of mind like that, too, because they feel like they're being heard at that point. Now, if you were to shut them down, okay, it may not go so well right afterwards. And I suggest to anybody that when that happens, if somebody's reaching out, talking like that, or they're saying, take them serious. Don't brush it off. Don't be like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. It's serious. If they're talking to you, they're asking for help in their own way.
Yeah, there's that great Simon Sinek clip out there on YouTube. It's called 8 Minutes. Listen, we all have 8 minutes for somebody. So if somebody's reaching out to you and that really needs help, maybe they don't need your feedback. Maybe they just need an ear. Give them that 8 minutes just to vent. And if you know somebody that's really struggling, and if you're here in the U.S. or in Canada, call the 988. It's not just for suicide ideation. It's for any type of crisis. It's free. It's anonymous. And they literally save lives every day. They save my life. And like I said, I am so happy to be alive today because I took all that really horrible pain and it turned it into a beautiful purpose. And, you said something, Pete, that really, it makes my heart smile, right? Every time we share our story, we unlock somebody else's prison. And that way, people they feel seen and heard, and they don't feel so terrified in their own journey because they know that somebody else is going through the same type of thing.
No, you're right, 100%. And that's the great thing with the show is people sharing their stories, other people such as yourself coming on. As much as you got going on and things like that. It even shows that hey, no matter what you got going on, everybody has something they're not telling people about. And I think that was an interesting point one of my guests had made before is that she had reached out to somebody and they shut her down, and I was like, ooh, yeah. See, there's the problem. Is that one person said, "Oh, hey, call me if you need something." She called them, and then they go, "Oh, well, I'm too busy to deal with your problems right now. I have my own." And I'm just like, "Oh, no, no. Come on, guys. We got to do better than that."
Yeah, we all need to do better. And, Pete, you know as well as I do, like the world's on fire right now,
Yeah.
literally on fire. And people are reaching out, scrambling for resources, like resources that we would typically give on any given episode 2 years ago. Some of those resources aren't available now.
Yeah.
And, if you find a resource link, hang on to it. URL might change, or destination, whoever's publishing it might change, but use those resources and don't shut people down. People, listen, we all got something going on. Every single one of us, whether it's a mental health issue or a work issue or whatever, 8 minutes. You don't have to give any advice. Just listen to them. And if you offer up for somebody to call you if they're in crisis, take the time to answer that phone call.
Yeah.
Probably just save their life.
Exactly. See, that's the same thing I tell people too, because it's like, they don't realize how much is happening. Because if they're at least talking to you about it, you've already won the battle right there. Because when you look at the statistics, men don't normally call and talk to you about it. They'll just commit suicide versus women who will talk to you about it but haven't committed as much. And the thing is that it doesn't matter either side you're going with. It's just like you just said, if someone calls you and it's telling you something, just listen. It doesn't cost anything. They're not asking you to be an expert. They're asking you to be that friend you told them to call. Like, hey, listen, reach out if you need something. Because I'm tired of people that when it happens, they go, oh, well, they should have reached out to you. Then you find out that they reached out to them and they go, oh, well, yeah, they brushed them off, basically. It's like, come on now. You can't do that to people. Say, hey, listen, I'll listen if you want to call and talk to me about it. And then you don't listen to what they're saying because, that's the worst thing you could do possibly.
Oh, 1000%. It took a lot for me to call 988. Number one, at the time it happened, I was 59 and a half. And I'd grown up in a generation where, we don't talk about our mental health. We
Yeah.
shove that down until it can't go anyplace else. But at the time that everything was going on, I didn't quite understand what was going on in my head. And I was terrified. No, Pete, when I tell you, nobody knew how depressed I was. Nobody. My wife didn't know. My coworkers didn't know. My friends didn't know. Nobody knew. As extroverts, we mask up really well.
Yeah.
Just don't. Okay. I can tell you somebody in 2 years into my healing journey, I hurt myself more than I helped myself. But in my defense, I didn't understand what was going on inside my head. I didn't want to put up any Christmas decorations. I didn't want to do anything. And I did things that were totally out of character for me. And, if you see somebody totally getting withdrawn or they've kind of just checked out, just check in on them, right? And make sure if they're extroverted, you give them a question that they have to answer back. Because my typical response was, hey, yeah, I'm living the dream. But in reality, I just wanted to be done. I just wanted to die inside my head. But, being an extrovert and being an empath, I took on everybody's pain. And then the
Yeah.
problem is I didn't take care of myself. I know how to take care of myself now. And boundaries are life-saving.
Right, exactly. And I think a lot of people don't do those, especially with social media. Like TikTok's the worst enemy of that all, man. All them people sending you those live requests. Oh, well, come visit my live, come visit my live. And then you feeling obligated. It's like, no, man, set your boundaries. Tell people, listen, hey, after this time, like I tell people after 5 o'clock, don't expect to get a hold of me much unless it's an absolute emergency because I unplugged from that point on. Like I don't look at my phone much. I'll look at it maybe if something important comes in here and there, but other than that, I'm usually not looking at my phone at all. And it's my wife said recently, it weirds her out when I don't do that. I'm like, well, I'm trying to unplug for myself, and not only because you come home, because when she gets home, that's me and her time until I go to work because I work third shift, so I'm up all night, so most nights. And I come record this show, and then I take a nap afterwards, and then when she gets home, I focus time on her, And it's hard for people to unplug because it's addictive, man. You got all these people want you to come visit them and things like that. And it's like, listen, you can invite all you want, but don't expect me to be there. And a lot of people I found, some don't understand that. They're just like, oh, well, you're not going to be there. No, I've already told you after 5 o'clock is my time. These are the boundaries I'm setting. You like them? I don't care if you like them personally. It's what I've chosen to do. And it's strange to people when I tell them that, but I'm like, listen, it's the first thing, man. And then self-care also is not really done much either. People don't realize, like, listen, sometimes you just got to take a step away and worry about you, man. You can be as selfish as you want, because at the end of the day, you got to worry about yourself, man. Some of these people aren't worried about you. Your real friends will be there when you come back, or they'll call and check in on you, like, hey, listen, are you doing okay? Things like that. That's your real friends. That's how you determine who's who, and things like that too. And I don't think people realize it's those small little things that we can do. You don't have to be a professional, man, to be a good friend. You just gotta just ask them, hey, listen, how you doing? And and to your thing about asking questions, I always ask people, hey, how's your mental health? Because think about it. If I said, hey, Gretchen, how are you? You can answer with, oh, I'm just doing fine, or some one word answer that. But I would say, hey, how's your mental health? You have to think about what I'm saying to you now, because now you're like, wait a minute, what did he just say to me? And you have to actually think of a response to that.
And what's really sad is, in like today's society, people still have a hard time mentioning the word mental health, right?
Yep.
It's not a bad word. It's not. Nowhere is suicide or bipolar or anxiety. Listen, we all have messy heads, every single one of us, and just like show up for your coworkers, show up for your friends, show up for your family. Like, show up. And if you say you're going to show up for a friend, honestly, show up.
Yeah.
Don't brush us off, right? That's like the biggest slap in the face. And just being kind. Kindness goes a really long way, especially in the firestorm that we're having right now, because people don't just have like their day-to-day work stress, but they have a ton of external factors coming in, and they may have been like the happiest person in the world, and then all of a sudden they're shutting down. Those are the people you really want to latch onto. And like, don't make it weird and gross, but like, just ask them how they're doing. Like, a simple conversation goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And you being married and I'm married, we both understand that, just having a conversation with your partner helps. Like, I had a situation where me and my wife had to have a hard conversation. Now things are a lot different, and it was good to get all that out there. It was a rough conversation, but it's a conversation I had to have. A lot of times it's rough when you come to talk about your feelings or things. I shared mine, she shared hers, and things like that. And it's great when you can have that communication, because you guys can talk about anything. And I think that's a lot of times, like you said, just have a conversation. And people don't, like I said, suicide really worries people, because I had a guy on the show by the name Brian. Brian's a really good friend of mine I had made through the show. He's doing great things, but Brian had talked about his own suicide ideation. He talked about actually that morning he had considered it right before we started recording. Like, now when Mike and we and him linked up, you could tell something was bothering him at first. And then he started mentioning, well, I lost my friend to suicide a few months ago. And there it was just the unlocking phase of that. And he said, hey, Pete, can I say something? And I believe that's when he started going in. He talked about it at one point, and then he circled back to it. I had about 15 people after that recording go, listen, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, I just heard from him. What do you mean? I mean, it was a wild moment, but it's a real conversation that had to be had, like he was out here live sharing this with people to see. Now, anybody can see this show, and because we're on YouTube and everything else, and they can hear Brian saying it. But what Brian was doing was something powerful, because he's talking about what his thoughts were. Hey, Pete, this morning, and he went a great description. There was no detail spared at all. And I thought it was amazing that he took the time to do it right here with me, because I was at first a little panicked, because I was like, oh man, what is he going to say next? But at the same time, I didn't realize what was going on, until he started talking more about it. And I was like, man, that was a powerful movement. 15 people that don't know him are already asking, hey, listen, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, I heard from him already. He messaged me back. It was like in some of the show clips I have on, Instagram and things like that. He was like, it was really powerful for him to start having that conversation, but it scared the hell of a lot of people. I don't know why, because at least he's talking to us, because he was telling us what was going on in his head.
And that kind of leads me to the other little project I'm working on. We laughed about this earlier about my plate is very full right now. So a couple of months ago, I launched another podcast with a friend of mine, and it's called the Survivors Podcast. It's all about suicide awareness. I'm not sure if you or your listeners know, but since January 20th, the suicide attempt and full-on suicide rates have gone up over 25%.
Isn't that crazy?
And the crisis hotlines, their call volume has gone up over 700%.
Jeez.
So no matter if you're in a big city, you're in a suburb, you're alone, or you're in rural America, call 988. It is free. It is anonymous. You are not alone. You are wanted. You are loved.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you can't find your voice, like in my case, the 988 woman that I spoke with helped me find a voice. She helped me find my footing. She gave a meaning to what was going on in my head, because like I couldn't even talk to my wife. Like I couldn't tell anybody what was going on because I didn't understand. But after that phone call, I talked to my wife for over 3 hours, and it was probably the most I'd ever cried.
Yeah.
Even more than when my mom had passed away. That was pretty traumatic. But like I had a lot of stuff going on in the last quarter of 2022. It was a lot for me to handle. It would probably be a lot for a lot of people to handle. But I'm also an empath, so I took on everybody else's crap.
Me too.
And did not take care of myself, right? Like you were talking about self-care and self-love. Yeah, they may seem like buzzwords, but they're not. If you are not taking care of yourself, there is no way you can take care of anybody else. No way.
No, that's 100% true. And hats off to your wife for a 3-hour-long conversation. That had to be hard on her, too, to hear all the thoughts you had and things like that just coming out for her to hear it all. Man, hats off to her, man. And because she had to take on a lot that you were giving out, though. But, that's a real woman there. That's a real partner for you, man. The one that can sit there and handle those conversations with you. They can be real. Listen, hats off to her 100%, man, because it's crazy. And the number going up is that's why this conversation needs to happen more. It's just insane. It really is.
Well, especially right now. Like right now is May is Mental Health Awareness Month, right? But we should be practicing like checking in on our mental health every single day. Every day. Like for me, mine includes like journaling, doing my podcast is super healing for me. Random acts of kindness. When I go to the store now, when I see the person's name tag on, I address them by their name tag. You may be the nicest person that they've run into you all day, right? All those kinds of things help you. They help inside your head. They give you a little joy. And
you're even making their day too. Remember now, you mentioning them by name, like you said, that one kind of act of kindness could save someone's life.
Yeah, like don't be rude to them, okay? They're human. Everybody's human, right?
Yeah.
We all make mistakes. We all have bad days, but you will never truly understand what somebody's going through by just looking at them, right?
Exactly.
There's so many hidden mental illnesses, PTSD, schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, the whole 9 yards, right? Like just be nice. That's my two things like right now is check in on your extroverted friends and be nicer to people.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because like I've had a situation where I could read the guy's body language a little bit and I could sense something wrong. So I say, hey man, how you doing today? And he just unloaded and I was just like, what he told me was that he saw his friend was in a shooting incident. His friend got shot to death and he was sitting a car length ahead of him. So they were outside this billiard hall. Okay. And his name is Chris. Chris had told me this story. And mind you, I've seen this guy 1,000 times where I work. I work at a gas station, so I see people come in all the time. I don't know a lot of people by name just because it's just like, we don't exchange names a lot of times. But when I get a chance to know their name, you better believe I'm using their name every time I see them. But Chris had come up to me, and I noticed something was wrong. I say, hey, Chris, man, how you doing? He's like, can I really tell you, Pete? I'm like, yeah, go ahead, man. What's up? Talk to me. And he looked like he had something really wanted to say. So then he shared the whole incident of his friend getting shot. He was the one calling 911, looking at his friend's lifeless body going, I don't know if he's going to make it or not. Unfortunately, he lost him on December 18th. I did a nice little video package for him that Monday episode as soon as I found out about it, the day of the funeral for Chris's friend. And Chris had seen it and was so ecstatic about it. He was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much. You didn't have to do it." I'm like, "You're right. I didn't have to do it, Chris. I did it because it needed to be said." Because Chris told me something very interesting. He said, since the incident happened till the time I asked him, no one asked him how he was doing. They knew he was struggling, knew he was having problems, but no one in his inner circle ever asked him the question of like, "Hey, Chris, how are you doing?" And it's scary. Like, how could no one ask this poor guy what's going on? You can clearly see he's struggling. I'm an empath too, so no, I have this uncanny ability. I can read people's emotions a lot of times and see something's wrong, and usually that's how I generate the conversation. A lot of people, and I've been told some wild things over the years. I had a guy come in and tell me his kid was dead. He lost his kid a few minutes ago after walking in the store, and he's like, "Oh, do you really care? Do you really want to know?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, go talk to me. What's up?" And that's what gave me the idea to start this podcast, because I had another podcast before. We were just messing around doing some stuff, and then I had to really rethink about it because a lot of things were coming up that I didn't like. So it's like, all right, let's reset it. And then one day it just hit me like the apple falling out of the tree, man. It's just like Pete versus anxiety, why not? Where are we talking about mental health? And I was looking up some podcasts and things, and a lot of them are doctors, but I'm like, where's it just a real general conversation? So, it's like one average man versus his anxiety, and I'm meeting other people that have other things. And, ever since I started the show, it's like an evolution of who I am, because I went from just like this quiet individual, felt like I'm not being heard much, to now like everybody's talking about me. I have people on their podcast talking about me, other people mentioning my name, and things like that. It's just, to me, it's still weird to me, because I'm like, damn, they're talking about me. I mean, all I'm doing is having a conversation with people, and it's making that powerful of a movement, and it's great, and I love it. And I'm still trying to get over the stardom of the people saying my name on a podcast episode. I literally fell over, girl. I was like, oh man, I'm like, are they talking about me? Oh God.
I can totally relate to that, because my wife is all the time, she's like, "You're internet famous." I'm like, "Shut up, I am not." Okay. But like the conversations that like you and I have, or like what Dirty Skittles and I have, they are real, authentic conversations. We are real people going through these issues. We're not doctors.
Nope.
Like, we are so not clinical. We're anti-clinical. But I think that like having conversations like this with like you and I, or maybe Joe down the street, sharing our stories helps other people unlock their doors, so they don't feel so terrified and alone in their own journeys. And I'm finding more, like, over the last, I'm going to say 2 years, that men have really started to open up about their mental health, because there should be absolutely no shame for you going through whatever you're going through.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And like opening your mouth and like letting people in. It's a lot easier to say now, because I was horrible at it in 2022.
Yeah.
Like, apparently now I couldn't find my voice before, and now I can't shut up. But I'm okay with that, because I'm getting a message out there. Like, I want people to see me as a story of hope, because I took all that really bad stuff and turned it into purpose.
Right.
We've had over about 120 episodes now. And then I started sharing my own story, because, my co-host and several other people are like, people need to hear your story, like what you went through. And so I've now started doing a ton of podcast interviews. And then in just this year, on January 22nd, I opened up my own business. I quit corporate America after 45 years. I'm like, deuces, I'm done. This is not good for my mental health. And I get to work with customers and do the things that I want to do on my own terms. So, like, part of my self-love and self-care right now is I'm taking every Monday off until it gets cold again.
Yeah, no, I
You know?
get that. It's awesome, though. I mean, you're worried about yourself. You're doing your own thing, and it's funny you say that, because a friend of mine that actually is probably watching right now, she goes by Sprite. Okay, I know her real name. I don't give out her government name just because she goes by Sprite. So Sprite had said the same thing to me one day. She said to me, "Pete, people need to know your story." So I'm going to record an episode of mine and just go complete nitty gritty with people. Now, it's going to be interesting how people respond, because there's a lot of things I don't tell people. Like, I go and do interviews, and I don't get really deep into it, because I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it from beginning to end, tell you all the nitty gritty details, all the things I've done that I have to deal with, that I've done, like I account for everything. And, from where I've been, from where I'm now, it's been a major difference. So like, now I feel like it's gonna happen one of these times. I'm gonna end up recording it. I keep saying I'm gonna do it, but it's gonna change a lot of perceptions. But I mean, it is what it is. I'd rather people know the full story, Pete, like what got me to where I'm at now, because a lot of weird stuff has happened. A lot of things I've done. And I dealt with a narcissist for 15 years, and it was, there's a lot more to that story. There's things I did that weren't that great either. And I think it's just going to feel great to get it off my chest, to tell people what it is, because I don't tell a lot of people about it because I don't know how they're going to perceive it. But at this point, I'm just kind of like, whatever. I'm just going to throw it out there and just let people see the really what happened. And then just like after that, I'm just going to leave it right there for them to view. Because at this point, it is what it is. It happened. I can't change the past, but I can only take accountability for what I've done.
For sure. And like, just for your listeners, like, I'll give you guys like the Reader's Digest version of what happened, because there may be other people out there that kind of what happened with me. So the last quarter 2022, there was some good stuff and a whole lot of bad stuff. At the time I was 59 and a half, I got offered an early retirement from my job, which was perfect because like the week before I had been praying to win the lottery. But then, I started thinking after that, there's still a lot of ageism out there in the workforce. So for me to find a job and, be able to keep up my bougie lifestyle, because you know what? Yes, I do have a Mac and I have my iPhone, and, I like to do fun things.
All right.
And then like a week after that happened, my wife ended up getting shingles. And if you've ever met anybody that got shingles, there's absolutely nothing you can do to help them or make them feel better. And so while she was healing, I hit and killed a deer, which was horrifying to me because I've never hit and killed an animal before. I ended up getting catfished and the FBI got involved. Thankfully, I woke up, like my brain kind of came out of its fog for a little bit, just enough so that like I didn't spend any money. But then a really good friend of ours passed away unexpectedly. My father-in-law passed away 2 days before Thanksgiving. Throw in some seasonal depression, some holiday depression. And then like a couple of weeks before my attempt, we were in New York City. And like I did some things that are totally out of character for me. I got super drunk. I lost my phone in a Uber. I broke my nose in the hotel room. When I bent over, like I face planted into the window. Like all things that like people should have honed in on, but they didn't. Nobody's trained in how to help somebody that's going through a mental health crisis, right? They see things at face value, and it was all of that all compacted into a really short time frame. And then, like at work, they had taken away all my duties because they knew I was retiring after the first of the year, and so like my sense of worth went away. Like I was empathed to death because I'd taken on everybody else's pain, right? And trying to help them. And then, after I called 988 and I got a therapy appointment, like one of the first thing my therapist taught me was boundaries. Like I hadn't set up boundaries, and like as an empath, like how to put my shield up, right? Yeah. So now like I have this imaginary black box, and if it smells like drama, like I got to really think hard about bringing that drama in.
Yep.
And I've lost some friends because of this, right? Because now I use no a lot more often than I did in the past. Like I protect my mental health more than anything else in this world. And I'm happier for it. And I was able to find the things that brought me joy. Like my podcast brings me joy. For Dirty Skittles and I, it's like free therapy.
Did you say 30 Skittles is the person's name? I love that name. That's awesome.
So our stage names are Dirty Skittles and I'm G-Rex.
30 Skittles. I love it. That's so awesome. I love that name.
And like I said, when we started the podcast, it was all based off of me sharing my story. So I shared my story the day after on social media, and I had about 200 people reach out to me and thank me. I have thousands of friends. Nobody, like I said, nobody knew how depressed I was. And then, every day before work, Dirty Skittles and I would call each other. And I'm going to use this term super loosely because I retired in April. We would call each other and laugh about the most irreverent things ever. But here's the thing about laughter, right? Like we can laugh with our mental health. Laughter releases all that cortisol, gets your serotonin going, gets your endorphins going, and it can really help change the trajectory of the day. So, it's during one of those conversations, she's like, "Hey, let's do a podcast." I'm like, "Okay, let's do a podcast." And like I said, we thought we would do 3 episodes. We're up to season 11 now, and just really, really, really love what we're doing. And all our guests have reached out and said thank you because we make it when you come on the podcast with us, or if you just listen, it's like sitting around the fire just shooting the shit with friends. We
Hmm.
either make you laugh or cry or whatever, but it's super healing. It's
Yeah.
healing for me. It's healing for Dirty Skittles, and you know I'm sure that you've had the same thing. Like a lot of people are afraid to talk to somebody face to face about what they're going through, but you put them
Yeah.
in front of a microphone, and like they can go for days. It's super cathartic for people, and for me, like I'm writing a book. I was almost done, and then I quit my job, but I wanted to like have that section in my book, and it in the book, I found it to be very cathartic when I was writing about everything that had happened, and I learned a bunch of stuff about myself.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I thought about writing a book too, doing a memoir about my own story and things like that too. It's come up in conversation several times. And like I said, my good friend told me about the same thing. She was like, you should people want to hear your story. And I'm just like, yeah, I know I'll get around it one day. It's I procrastinate a lot when it came to that kind of thing because I was just like, I didn't think I was comfortable enough. But I think after doing about 100 episodes of this, which we well, not this past month, the Monday before was actually 100, the 100th episode live we've done. This show hasn't even been a year long yet, and I've already had 100 episodes posted live. And I've thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I think it's time to just start sharing it, just like you did. Just go for it and just leave it out there and see what people say. Because at this point, I honestly don't even care what the comments are. You can hate it, you can love it. It's just what happened. You'll deal with it either way. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, not sorry, Reese's, as they like to say. I don't know what to tell you.
Our goal really, like our mission has always been to destigmatize how we, talk about mental health.
Yeah.
And there's nothing taboo about it. And I want people to know that there's so many resources out there. Like if you're not comfortable listening to a podcast, pick up the phone, text, call 988. There's also like another place I send people, like if they're in crisis and they're not really comfortable with calling 988, you can go out to the helphub.co, and it breaks it down by categories, like whatever you're dealing with, and lists out all the crisis numbers across the world. And you know, just make sure you're taking care of yourself. Like I said, the world needs you,
Hmm.
and like in some cases, like what you're feeling today, you may not feel tomorrow, but give yourself a chance. Give the world a chance. Give your friends a chance to help you out.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part is people giving someone a chance or being honest or opening up about it. I think you find a lot of your real friends will show through real quick, the ones that are there to listen to you and things like that. And then the people that don't want to be there won't be there, then that's their choice. Don't let that affect you because if they didn't want to be there in the first place, then that's fine. Then that's less people you need to deal with, honestly. If they were your real friend, they'd listen to what you have to say. And I have a good friend that did that for me. He did that when I was going through a lot, and he was the one that pointed out the whole thing when I was dealing with narcissists. He was like, "Hey man, you need to realize what's going on right now." I said, he's like, something's not right. She's cheating. And he was pointing out all the things. He's like, you already know all these things. He said, look at what's going on around you, man. He kept saying it. And I was like, nah, man, no, I had that too much trust in this person because they had me that manipulated to believe that, oh no, they'd never do these things to me. And then when he started like listing them off, he's like, look at the things you're pointing out. He goes, tell me that doesn't sound weird to you in some way. He goes, I'm like, yeah, and it took that one person to open my eyes to what was really going on. And me and him have been friends for years. And it's funny how we even met. We've been online playing video games together. We randomly joined up with a couple of people that knew each other, and he was a mutual friend of someone else. And ever since then, we've hung out. He's come out here to visit me before. I haven't made it to California where he's at yet, but I'm planning on going that way too. And it's like you never know who you're going to meet these days. And we've been great friends ever since then. Me and my buddy Lewis have known each other. We've been through a lot of stuff together, man. Like I could call him at 2 o'clock in the morning, my time, and if you whatever his time, and he knows if I'm calling him at that late a time, it's something going on. He's answering, or if he misses the call, he's calling back on, yo, what's up? What's going on, man? You're not calling me for no reason. So it's great when you have that support system of people you can reach out to when you're in need of things like that.
Yeah, community is huge, right? For me, like I have like 3 really good friends. My wife, Dirty Skittles, and I are like the best of friends. Like I get to do a podcast with somebody I love to death. And then, I have another friend here locally, and we help each other out, right? We bring out the best and the worst in each other, but they allow me to be myself. And they
Yeah.
understand like what I'm going through and how I'm just trying to make it from day 1 to day 2 to day 3. So funny that we're talking about this in November of last year. I got super depressed again. My circumstances, I had taken on a part-time job, and my circumstances at work had really